Have you ever walked through a crowded street, invisible to the eyes around you? Have you ever felt the weight of being seen, yet never truly understood? This is not a story about choice. It is a story about existence, about survival, about lives that society refuses to see. This is the story of Ria. Ria was born in a small town, where everyone knew everyone else's business. From the very first day she felt different, not because she wanted to be, but because the world decided she was. In her earliest memories, she recalled the whispers of neighbors, the sharp looks of relatives, and the subtle but unmistakable distance in her parents' eyes. Even as a child, she loved playing with dolls, picking bright colors, and dreaming of a life where she could just be herself. But that world didn't exist for her. At school, she was called names that pierced deeper than knives. Teachers, who should have protected her, turned away. Her peers mocked her, whispered cruel jokes, and created invisible walls that kept her from joining any group. By the age of 10, Ria had already learned a painful lesson. Being transgender was not safe. It was not welcomed. It was punishable by isolation, humiliation, and sometimes even violence. Home was supposed to be her sanctuary. Instead, it became another battlefield. Her parents struggled to understand her identity. "Why can't you just be normal?" her father would ask, the frustration in his voice hiding fear, misunderstanding, and shame. Her mother, silent and often tearful, seemed torn between love and the pressure of societal expectations. Ria's small room became her refuge. Books, sketches, and secret journals filled her world. She drew pictures of herself as she wished to be, imagining a life far from judgment. But the outside world was relentless. Relatives would visit, asking intrusive questions, offering unwanted advice, and sometimes outright condemning her existence. By the time she was 12, Ria understood that love from her family was conditional. She learned to hide her authentic self, to smile when it hurt, and to shrink so the world could breathe around her. School became a place of constant fear. Every hallway, every classroom, every glance felt like a judgment. Teachers failed to intervene when classmates bullied her. At one point, she was pushed to the floor by a group of older students simply because she wore colors they deemed girlish. The principal did nothing. The counselor pretended not to notice. Ria learned that the world only offers protection to those who conform, and conforming would have meant erasing her identity, pretending to be someone she wasn't. Yet amidst this pain, there were moments of small hope. A few classmates treated her kindly. One teacher praised her art. But these glimpses of humanity were rare, like stars in a sky of darkness. By the time Ria turned 18, her parents' patience had worn thin. After a heated argument, she was asked to leave the house. Homelessness struck her not with a bang, but with the slow, grinding weight of societal neglect. She had nowhere to go. Shelters refused her. Some turned her away for being transgender. Employment was nearly impossible. Interviews ended in lies. "We'll call you," but no one ever did. Her nights were spent on park benches, her days searching for odd jobs, surviving on the kindness of strangers and the mercy of luck. She met others like her, trans women, some older, some younger, who had been rejected by families, abandoned by society, and left to survive in the margins. Together, they shared stories of humiliation, survival, and occasional laughter. Ria discovered a world the majority of society refuses to see. A world of human beings living in constant fear, but also in quiet resilience. The injustice wasn't only physical, it was emotional, psychological, spiritual. Ria's identity was constantly questioned, mocked, or erased. Medical care was difficult to access. Harassment was common. Even public spaces were hostile. A simple act of walking down the street could turn into a nightmare. Yet Ria's spirit refused to break. She began writing, telling her story in journals, poems, and sketches. She wanted people to understand the cost of being transgender in a society that refuses to see you as human first. Her words were raw, honest, and painful, but they were also powerful. They captured a truth that many refuse to acknowledge: that injustice isn't always visible in headlines, but it lives in the everyday experiences of people like her. One day, Ria met Maya. a social worker who worked for LGBTQ+ rights. Maya helped her find temporary housing and access to healthcare. Slowly, Ria began attending community gatherings, meeting other transgender people, sharing stories, and learning that she wasn't alone. She started an online blog, sharing her art, writing, and experiences. Her audience grew not just in numbers but in empathy. People began commenting, sharing their own experiences, and slowly, her story became a voice for those who had been silenced. For the first time in her life, Ria felt a sense of belonging. She understood that injustice might never fully disappear, but her voice, her existence, and her courage could spark awareness, conversation, and change. Ria often thinks back to the girl she once was, shy, scared, and unseen. She remembers the countless nights of tears, the stares, the rejection. But she also remembers the moments of hope, a kind smile from a stranger, a teacher's encouragement, the solidarity of her community. Her story is not unique. Thousands of transgender individuals live similar lives, facing subtle and overt injustice every day. And yet, society often refuses to see them, not because they are invisible, but because acknowledging their reality is uncomfortable, inconvenient, or challenging to social norms. This story is more than Ria's journey. It is a mirror to society. It is a call to empathy, to understanding, and to action. Transgender lives are human lives. Their pain, struggles, and resilience deserve recognition. Their voices deserve to be heard. We must see them not as others, not as stories, not as headlines, but as human beings. Only then can society begin to undo the injustice it has long ignored. Ria continues her life, facing challenges but never hiding. She speaks, she writes, she survives. And she reminds us that the greatest injustice is not the cruelty itself, but the refusal to see and acknowledge it. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share it with your friends.